And when did you get into the subject?
I got in. I call it a culture, but I got into the culture in November of 2018. Uh, I was at work, just looking for something to listen to, and scrolling through YouTube, come across one of these insanely popular Sasquatch channels. I started listening, and the more I listened, the more memories I started having of when I was a kid.
Okay, kind of brought back some things that happened that kind of reminded you of, wait a minute, what was it? Kind of second guessing it now, huh?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Uh, my parents, the adults, whoever was around, I'd run up to them and tell them, I thought I saw someone peeking at me from behind a tree. And they would tell me, oh, it's just your imagination. I said, no, no, it looked like a big, mean gorilla or a monkey. They're like, no, there ain't no monkeys around here. You're just you have an overactive imagination.
Yeah, that's the first typical parent answer for anything, right? So.
Yeah, yeah. One time I told them I thought I saw a bear. They told me there ain't no bears around here. I go, okay. So I started believing that. Like, okay, well, it's just my imagination.
Right.
Yeah, so.
They started convincing you.
Yeah. I'd see them run across the back of the field. I'm like, it's my imagination. And for 30, 35 years, I'd forgot about it. Didn't think anything else of it until I come across, some of these Sasquatch Chronicles and Dixie Cryptid and stuff like that. And it started bringing back these memories, and I thought, wow, there's a direct correlation here, So I started going back to, my family has some property that's literally 2 miles west of the Sabine River. Yeah, so I started going back to this property. No one had lived there in a couple decades, and it was completely grown up. But this is where I would see these things when I was a kid. And this is where I would hear the howls, screams, wood knocks, and all that.
Okay, so this land's been in your family for a very long time, then.
Yeah, this property's been in the family over 100 years.
Oh, okay, wow.
And the thing is, my mother and uncles and aunts were raised on this property. My grandfather was born and raised on that property. He's dead now, but I wish I had a chance to talk to him about it.
He's probably got some stories. There had some.
I'm sure he did. But my parents, or my mother, really, they've had encounters as well, and just wrote it off as a bear. But I said, wait a minute, I thought you said there ain't no bears. So,
right.
But, don't question the adults. Yeah, so in November, actually it was Thanksgiving Day, 2018, I had this urge to go back. I'd been thinking about it for a while. And I was basically raised there. I spent every summer there as a kid. And I like the place. It calls to me. I'm at peace when I'm there.
Now you probably know those woods like the back of your hand as well.
I do. Not anymore so much because it's so grown up. I'm scared to death to to walk out in it, and for good reason. But 2018, I went back Thanksgiving Day, I skipped Thanksgiving dinner with everyone. Decided to drive up there. It's a 3-hour drive from here, but I just kind of hung around and walked the property a little bit. Walked down we have an R&R road that leads from the top of the property all the way to the back. And there's about a couple hundred acres up here.
Oh, that's vast. That's large.
Yeah, and it's bordered by 2 different creeks. There's one way in, one way out.
And are those creeks, they're wet creeks or not dry creeks?
They're both wet creeks.
Okay.
Yeah. But so at Thanksgiving, I would start seeing weird little stick structures. I had no clue what it was. I would see these arched trees, and they all were arched in one direction. I had no clue what that was either, because I had just really started listening, and so I really didn't pay any attention to it. But I didn't go back for another year. I went back Thanksgiving 2019, and same thing, I'm seeing more of the same. Well, by this time, I've been listening to Sasquatch for well over a year. And I think that I'm becoming well educated in the subject. But
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can learn a lot from listening to those.
you can, but you really don't learn enough. What the real way to learn is to actually get out.
Yes, getting out there.
Yeah. I mean, you can listen to someone all day long, but that is not going to prepare you for what you're going to see if they choose to
Oh,
allow
yeah.
you to see them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. I mean, boots on the ground is a completely different experience, you know. That's a
Oh, yeah.
whole different reality from listening to somebody else talk about it on a podcast. So.
Well, the first thing that started happening, and I didn't start having encounters until about the end of 2019, beginning of 20. I'd went up there and I was camping out and just walking the property. I was laying in my tent one night and I heard what sounded like the Ohio howl.
Did it sound pretty
And-
close?
Yeah, it was pretty close because it was loud.
Close enough to be uncomfortable.
Close enough to make me get my butt up and get in the pickup and lock the doors. And that experience was actually truly amazing. It brought a sense of validation. I started thinking, wow, there may actually be something to this.
Yeah, and that's a big step forward right there, is that first validation.
Yeah. I still had real healthy skepticism, though. Skepticism, excuse me.
Sure, I got you.
And that's still with me a little bit, kind of. I don't know why. I think because I don't want to admit what actually happened. Because I try to just to put it in the back of my mind and forget about it. But I can't. Because every night I relive it. I still have problems sleeping. I still have problems going back to the property. I'm still extremely nervous.
Okay, so that really affected you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, certain events started affecting me. I had a really bad encounter up there in March, end of February, beginning of March.
Now, this year?
That's something that simply can't talk about because it screws me up. It screwed me up in the head, and I know it's going to have problems from it.
Well, that's understandable if you don't want to talk about it. And are you referring to this year?
Yes.
Okay. And that was
Yeah,
on the same property, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, is
Yeah.
this the property that you're wanting to get an investigation done on?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yeah, this is the property that I need help with.
Well, I definitely.
No offense to anyone out there, but I don't need someone to come up there and tell me, okay, yeah, I think you have a problem, or yeah, I think they're here, because I know they're there.
Well, from what you're telling me, it's pretty obvious they're there.
And there's been so many accounts and encounters coming out of that county and surrounding areas. It's unreal. I mean, so many different people that I listen to all have something to say about Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, the Sabine River, and the surrounding area.
Yes, I've heard a lot, several. It's kind of never ending around there, and then, that's just the ones that have actually come forward with their encounters. We don't know of how many of them were quiet about it. So.
Yeah, and there's actually a lot of that happens. I think maybe because we're in the Bible Belt, maybe they think they're Nephilim or demonic,
Right.
and they feel that's not something that you should talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes perfect sense for when you put the religious aspect to it.
Well, these small little encounters kept happening. I would drive down the road in my pickup, and I would see a figure run across the road, just out of reach of my headlights. All I could really see was a silhouette, but I saw it clearly.
Now, any of those
I
times
know
where it ran across, were you able to see any eye shine?
Yeah, I had a face-to-face encounter. Actually, about 2 months ago, and that's what has really prompted me to start telling the stories and try to solicit some help.
Yeah. Well,
Because obviously what I'm doing is not working.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the first step, is talking about it.
Yeah, otherwise, I never would have said anything at all. I would have went with me to my grave. I tried to talk to my family about it, but they think I'm insane.
It's always better to talk to people who have experienced the same things you've experienced yourself.
Yeah, and they've all had the same experiences when they grew up there, so. But I think they've just forgotten about them or tend to ignore it.
Or in denial.
Yeah, or in denial, basically. I had one uncle that I could talk to about it. Yeah, he was estranged from his wife and had been living out of his truck up there. He had been there for a couple months. I was going on the weekends up there. So I would see him on the weekends and talk to him. He knew they were there. I think he may have been feeding them. I know he did say that his dog food kept coming up missing out the back of his truck. And it wasn't a dog doing it.
Right.
When I first started going back up there, I will admit, I don't like to do this for obvious reasons, but I was feeding them. I knew they were there.
Mm-hmm.
From the stick structures, the howls, the screams. I was watching a YouTube channel. I'm not going to say the guy's name or his channel because I don't want other people to look him up and then what he's doing and do the same thing, because it could cause some very serious problems, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Right, totally understandable there.
But I was taking food up there, raw food, brisket, pork loin, raw chicken, watermelon, grapes, apples, you name it, and putting it in a certain spot, leaving it, coming back the next night, and every bit of it would be gone.
Were there ever any prints that you would find around it, or
Say that again?
did you ever find any prints or evidence around the food?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's prints all over the place, all through the creek, all up and down the creek, and even inside of the house. Now, there's a house on the property that my grandfather built. Mother Nature has destroyed it. The roof has fell, some of the walls have fell, and the floors caved in. So it's unlivable, but it's enough of a shelter for something to get in and get out of the weather. Yeah, and that's actually where I had the face-to-face.
Okay. And is that the one that really put fear in you? Was the face-to-face one, or is it a different one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that one, that's what has really put a fear in me.
Now, was that during the day or the night?
That was during the day.
Oh, wow, okay.
That was a daytime sighting. And, alright, so I'll just go through the story. I bought an ATV to help do my research in June of 2020. And ever since, I've been going pretty steadily, just about every weekend going up there, and I would see something or hear something, or something would happen, usually. It didn't happen every time, but maybe once a month or even twice a month, I would see some new prints or hear a scream or something see eye shine. Beginning of July of last year, I started going even more. I was even going after work some nights. I would drive up there and just to see what was going on, see if I could catch someone on the property. But like I said, I still had some skepticism. I thought maybe someone was screwing around with me. But no, I wish. Well, this daytime encounter, I went back a couple months ago, and I got there pretty early, about 8 or 9 in the morning. I'd set up my camp, got a fire going, was doing a little work around the property. I decided to go for a ride. Like I said, the river is literally just a couple miles away. So I grabbed my fishing pole, went down to the river, and caught a couple fish and put them in my drop box. And on the way back, I cut across the adjoining property and got up on the ridge and was riding along the ridge, and that's right where the house is built. So the house is pretty close to the road, pretty close to that ridge.
So the house is on an upper elevation compared to the river bottom then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, when you go up the driveway and turn left and go to the house, you're at the highest point on the property. Everything else from there is all downhill. So I was coming across, going from left to right, and I saw this little cut in all the brush that has grown up around the house. And so I didn't notice that before. That's strange. I wonder who did that. Well, I keep going. I'm doing like 4 or 5 miles an hour. As I get closer to the house, I can see a big buzzard on top of it. And he's got his wings spread, and he's looking down, and he's bobbing his head, and it caught my attention. And I thought, what the hell's that buzzard doing? And I was under staring at him, still trucking along. I'm like, what the hell is he looking at? I look down, I follow his line of sight down, and I don't see anything. I go, well, what the hell is he looking at? And then I see something brown. I see just the outline. And I said, what is that, a shirt? I said, what's going on over here? And then I see head movement. He was following me with his head, just ever so slightly. When I saw his head movement, it still took me a second to realize what I was looking at. But as soon as I snapped to it, I was able to make out his eyes. They're probably the size of golf balls.
Wow, that's, yeah, big eyes.
And, yeah, this guy was huge. And my mind just went blank.
How far at this point do you think you are from him?
Yeah, I literally thought I was losing my mind. I can't be seeing what I'm seeing. And then it stood up. It was crouched down, just watching me. You know, thinking back, I think he wanted my fish. I think he could smell the fish, and that's what he wanted. But, you know, at the time, I thought he wanted me. He may have. I don't exactly know. You know, no one knows what they're thinking. So,
Right, of course.
but
How
the hair literally stood up all over my body. And it was that moment of, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, when something bad happens, you get tunnel vision.
Oh, yes.
I had that moment, and I was instantly sweating, instant blood pressure spike. Come off the ATV, my fight or flight instinct kicked in, and I found out that day that it was the fight, which I know there's no way I'm ever going to, you know, he'll tear me limb from limb, but I still felt the need to
Stand your ground.
protect myself. Well,
Were you
I don't
armed?
go. How?
Were you armed?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I don't go anywhere without my EDC and a rifle or shotgun or both. You know, I'm a prepper and survivalist in training.
Good deal.
So I believe in staying prepared.
Absolutely.
So I had my pistol strapped on. It's 1911. I come off the ATV, and I didn't stop first. I just come off of it. I don't really know how the hell that happened, but
Adrenaline.
it smacked the back of my truck. And when it did, I guess that kind of startled it, because he kind of made this huffing sound, and that literally scared the living hell out of me.
How far away from you was it?
And he was far enough away, he could have jumped and landed on top of me.
Oh, okay. So this was a really close encounter then.
This, yeah, he was, let's see, from that ridge, that spot I was at is our old parking spot. We used to park directly in front of the house. So, and that is about 35, 40 feet away. to, I wouldn't have been able to react, and it'd have been over for me. But he stood up, and he looked down at me, and he had a smirk on his face. You know, like, now you know I'm here. Turned around slowly, and then he ran. And he did not make a single noise while he ran through what's left of the house, out the back, and disappeared.
Wow.
You know,
No.
I was in the process of pulling my pistol and trying to get my sight picture, but he was already gone. But I fired off several magazines anyway, just for, you know, dramatic effect.
Kind of helped scare it away as well. But, I mean, you're going through a lot of emotions at that point, so.
Yeah, I went through probably 100 different emotions. Emotions I didn't even know I had.
Right.
And I kind of froze like a 2x4 there for a second. You know, when he made that huffing noise.
See, the huffing and the grin, you know, I've heard this several times before. So it kind of falls in line with other encounters that are similar. So that's important. How tall do you think he was compared to you? I mean, how tall are you?
I am 6'3" with my boots on. I'm 6'5".
Okay.
So if he was, I'm not exactly sure how big he was, because he could have been standing on something, or he may have been standing flat-footed on the ground. I'm not exactly sure. I wasn't looking below his waist. I was looking directly at his eyes and his mouth, that huge mouth.
Yeah, I've heard that. What'd you say?
I'll tell you this, his mouth was wide enough to, you know those Totino's square pizzas you get from Walmart?
Yes.
It was wide enough to stick an entire Totino's pizza in his mouth.
Wow. That's crazy. Did he show any teeth or anything?
No, he didn't. He just kind of smirked. You know, the corner of his mouth went up a little bit, and he just turned around, you know.
That is crazy. Did you see any skin at all, or basically just all hair?
Just basically all hair. He was still in the shadow of the house. There was one spot, he kind of moved a little bit when he was turning. There's one spot where the sun shines through, and it come across his face and lit his face up, and I watched his eyes dilate.
What color were the eyes?
The eyes were, all I saw was, his eyes were black at first until the sun hit it, and then I could see a little bit of white.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if there was any other color. But they do have whites to their eyes. It's just their eyes are able to dilate much more than ours. That's how they can see so well in the dark.
Right. Yeah, that makes absolute perfect sense as well. So, and what color was the hair?
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
It was a rusty brown color. He matched the paneling on the inside of the house, and that paneling is cedar. So, yeah, I guess a rusty brown color.
It's pretty crazy that he was able to run off, especially going through the old house without making a noise whatsoever. I mean, it's almost like they can run light. You know what I mean by light on the foot?
Right.
Which is pretty amazing in itself. I mean, because these things can weigh, quite an incredible amount. And
well, I have to admit, I have hereditary deafness.
Okay.
And my hearing sucks. So if there was a couple creaks, I didn't hear it.
Right.
You know, and then after firing, let's see, 1624 rounds of 45.
Well, you probably definitely couldn't hear anything at that point. So
Right, just ringing.
that's crazy.
But yeah, that definitely made me a believer.
Mhm. Oh well, yeah, that's
Not a believer,
undeniable.
but a knower.
Yeah,
That
absolutely
made me a
undeniable.
knower.
I want to back up a little bit if I can. When you were talking about coming up the road on your ATV, and you said that you saw a cut in the wood line, are you referring to where it looks like something's been coming in and out of the wood line, or
Exactly.
okay, so
Exactly.
not actually cut grass for anybody that gets that confused. This is grass that's like laid over, pushed over from exit and entering and traveling through.
Yes, this was a blazed trail.
Okay. And
And it was,
how far away from the house was that?
that led right up to the house.
Oh, okay.
Led right up to it. So,
Did it lead up to the front, the back, or side, or
to the front side.
okay?
The side, but it was towards the front.
Mm-hmm.
And it was coming from JP's property. Now, JP owned the property next door to us, and he had a little cabin about 100 yards away from ours. He's long been dead, but that's where the trail was coming from. And upon further investigation, I found more arch trees and prints around JP's place.
Okay, so you have access to JP's place as well? Or,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Have you ever found like sticks? Let's think how to explain this. Kind of stacked, almost in a star pyramid, but stacked up like TP style. And it could be small, it could be large.
You know, I haven't seen anything like that, but there is a really weird structure
Mm-hmm.
that was built out of sticks and lumber, but no nails. It's all natural cordage. Held together by natural cordage, and inside of it, it had three sides. One side was open.
Is that closer to
Inside
the water?
was a bunch. Yeah, it was close to the water.
Okay.
Close to the creek. There was a bunch of rocks stacked up inside, and a bunch of really old glass bottles.
That's interesting. I mean, you know, if it was a person, why is he collecting old glass bottles and rocks?
Right. Right. And it had a very strong, pungent odor inside of it.
That definitely adds some mystery to it there, having the odor
Yeah.
on top of it. But, have you come across, speaking of that, did you have any smell when you had that encounter? Any odors?
I didn't notice the smell. I'm a smoker.
Now, I know you're talking about your hearing issues, so I don't know if you can answer the next question, but have you ever heard wood knocks out there?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
And is it always one with a reply, or just a single, or how would you explain it?
There's replies. There are replies. Well, during the winter, let's see, was it this winter? I think it was right after that snowstorm we had in February. I went back up to the property, and this was just one night after work. You know, I just decided to drive up there and see what was going on. Well, I had pulled up the driveway, and I took an immediate right, and I was going to drive down the dirt road. And my cousin had just been up there the week before and was telling me that someone had done a bunch of logging, that there was about 50 acres had been logged, and she got stuck in a rut in the road that was left from one of the logging trucks. So as I'm going down this road, I get a couple hundred yards down it, and then I see this rut where she had gotten stuck in. And come to a stop, a complete stop, that the truck can park, turn my radio all the way down. I had my ATV in the back, and I'm sitting there looking. I said, man, I don't know if I can get through that. My truck's four-wheel drive, but at the time I had bald tires. So I was contemplating going through it. I said, is this extra weight going to help me or hurt me? So I'm just sitting there, and there's nothing happening. I put the truck in drive, put it in four-wheel drive high, turn the anti-spin control off, because I thought, I'm just going to nail it.
Right.
I eased forward, about a foot. I was going to try to put the front tires in and see how far it sunk, and then I was going to go from there. Well, I eased forward a foot, and then all of a sudden I hear this loud, extremely loud, mechanical whistle is what it sounded like. And it scared the life out of me. I said, what the F is that? I'm like, what? I said, what is that? Really? I rolled my window down a little bit and I yelled, shut the hell up! Because I thought there was someone out there screwing with me. Well, I said, I got to get through this. So I pulled forward another foot. And then there's a second one that started going off. And it was a 1 second whistle about every other second. And so they were in perfect sequence with each other.
And from different directions as well?
They're coming from the same direction.
Oh, same direction, okay.
Same direction. And so I rolled my window down just enough to stick my arm out with the flashlight and shine the field next to me. And I see absolutely nothing. And I've got my ATV in the back, so I can't see behind me. My tailgate's down, so my reverse camera is looking directly up my tailpipes. So that's all I see is just steam and exhaust coming out.
Right.
I was, oh, great. So I backed up. And as I'm backing up, one stopped, and then the other. And now I'm really confused. I said, what the hell? I said, that's got to be some sort of a pressure pad or pressure alarm or something. So I pulled forward, and then it started happening again. I said, all right. I said, I don't know what the hell's going on. There's some funny business going on, and when I catch whoever's doing it, they're going to get an ass beating they will never forget. And I thought, wait a minute, there's no electricity up here, so how can that be anything other than what I'm starting to now think?
Yeah, that's very strange. Very strange. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's an artificial sound. Or a mechanical sound.
I decided to get out of the truck. Stupidly. So I reached up and grabbed my door handle. Door pops open. Light comes on. And just for a split second, that noise, there was just a brief pause in that whistle. And then after that, it got louder, like they had walked right up behind my truck. And I recognized, I said, this is cognition, this is intelligence. I slammed the door shut, locked it, rolled the windows up, put it in reverse, and just punched it. I said, if you're behind me, I'm going to run your ass over.
I think at that point I would have as well. Yeah.
I backed all the way back up to the house, in reverse, only looking out my mirrors. Really surprised that I didn't hit something, a tree, or run off the side of the road into the creek.
Yeah, especially when you get a little fear running through your blood. So.
Oh yeah, my adrenaline was pumping. But I get back up to the house, and the noise had stopped. So I get out of the truck, and I'm looking around. I'm like, what the hell was that? Because I'd never heard anyone else until here recently on your channel talk about the bionic bird call.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a perfect description of what it was. When I saw bionic bird call, I snapped. I said, yeah. That's a good damn description. I know exactly what they're talking about because I heard it.
And that's the first and I assume the last time you've heard it?
Yeah, that was the first and only time. But that was enough for me. Said I got out of the truck and I got a fire going real fast. And I'm keeping my eye on that part of the road. I've got my headlights on, my pickup. Jumped up and started my ATV and turned the headlights on it and the LED light bar.
Keeping the area lit up.
As much light as I can.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I've done the same thing. So.
Well, as I'm standing there poking the fire, I get a rock buzz me, went right by my head, and hit the fire and made all the embers and everything fly up in my face. I turned and looked, and I can see a silhouette.
I'm guessing this was out of the light, right? This is out of the light.
Yeah, he's out of the light, but he's behind a tree. But I can see him. He keeps sticking his head out from behind the tree, and he's wider than the tree. And, I know this property. I know these trees. There's not any tree that looks like a huge-ass person standing behind it.
No human-shaped trees.
Yeah, no human-shaped trees on this property. So I can see it. And I actually turned the truck off because I thought I heard something. So I turned the truck and the ATV off, and I can hear what sounded like gibberish. And this was pretty loud, too.
Kind of like what they refer to as a samurai chatter?
Yeah, that's what everyone calls it, but it sounded more like... It sounded more like Russian to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I've heard it before, but to me it would just sound like two people mumbling.
Yeah.
And they made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I kept, what? What was that? What? Who's down there? Who's down there? Hey! Hey! And then I heard a hey back, but this was demonic sounding. And scared. You talk about scared man up.
That's a whole new level right there.
Yeah. I have a lot of guns. I'm a gun nut. I'm your regular Trump supporter. This particular time I took a Scar 17, which is a 308. So I pulled that out of the truck and decided that if whoever that is does not answer me, they're going to get 20 or 40 308s sent their way. So I yelled down there one more time. And I said, I got a gun. I said, I'm going to shoot. You better say something right now. Nothing. So I unleashed.
Yeah, and that itself is going to make a person do one of two things. Either answer back so he doesn't get shot or run like hell.
Right, right. And I could see that it was still behind that tree. It didn't move until I started firing. Then I didn't see it anymore. I don't know what happened. Maybe because of the muzzle flash, they had took off, and I just didn't see it.
Right. Yeah, because you're going to have
But-
little blinding incidents there. So. And,
Yeah. And I brought the rain.
And when you saw him behind the tree, did you see any eye shine whatsoever?
Yeah, I could see eye shine momentarily. It would stick its head out, and then I would see a bluish or white with a hint of blue, maybe green,
Mm-hmm.
start
Yeah.
shining, and then I think it stuck its hand up to block it. So that was enough for me that night. I'll let the fire burning. I don't care if it burns down the entire forest. Because I'm getting the hell out of here. If I could coexist with them, that would be great. If they would leave me alone. But it's obvious that this is either a new alpha in this troop, and he's an asshole,
Well,
or it's a new troop altogether that's moved in.
I will.
Because the original troop that was there, they didn't really mess with us when we were kids.
Just
They
stay
seemed
to
to know their
themselves.
boundaries.
Yeah. Well,
They
you're
just don't.
you're an adult now, so I think it's going to be a difference in their interactions. But one thing is, I don't think they have any ill intent as far as harming you, because if they did, they've had opportunity after opportunity,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they haven't, because intimidating is different than annihilating you, And,
Right.
it just kind of shows you that who's the boss out there. You stay on your side of the line, I'll stay on mine. But
Yeah, and that's kind of the feeling that I got when, he made that smirk.
mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. But it's still not your land,
All right.
and like I said, because I think because no one has lived there in over 20 years, they think it's theirs now.
Sure, that makes sense
And
too.
that's the problem. So,
Yeah, they're like Sasquatch squatters, right?
exactly.
So,
Yeah, they're exactly what they are. They're squatters.
yeah.
You know.